The time has come. We have reached the threshold and are staring down into the deep abyss below. 1,000 subscribers, which means I must finish what I started. Konosuba. Yeah, it's pretty good. Until next time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys. The fuck do you want from me? Everybody knows this show is good. Literally everyone. What can I add to the discussion beyond bad jokes and dark implications about my own character? I only promised to do Konosuba because my profile picture for this channel was Megumin for a long ass time. Yes, Konosuba is a super good anime. In fact, it's one of the few examples of a great isekai story. It's funny, the characters have boatloads of charm, the animation is active and has a lot of creative motion to it, and the succubus episode is some scrumptious degeneracy. Alright, if I'm going to do this, let's take this from the top. So, Konosuba is the anime adaptation of the light novel series written by Natsumi Akatsuki. The story follows the protagonist Sato Kazuma, a Japanese teenager that suddenly dies one day and is reincarnated into a fantasy world based off JRPG and classic fantasy tropes. Accompanied by the goddess Aqua, Kazuma forms a party of adventurers to take on the demon lord that is plaguing the land, hoping to save the world and become a legendary hero. Except that isn't exactly what happens. Konosuba is not the same thing as most isekai stories that get churned out nowadays. This isn't a power fantasy about some loser getting everything they ever wanted and everyone loves them all the time because fuck you if you expected an actual story. Konosuba is a parody of these things. A blatant parody. This is a comedy and a pretty goddamn funny one too. Essentially, it takes the idea of an isekai and applies mean-spirited comedy aimed at the protagonists that are supposed to be the heroes. They're all idiots, and half the time they're too busy fighting amongst each other to actually go out and save the world like what they were expected to do. It directly takes the idea of a power fantasy and flushes it down the toilet. It's more accurate to call this a comedic slice-of-life series that takes place in a fantasy world, with a heavy emphasis on skewering the structure one would typically see in isekai story. For example, here's how a scene would typically go down in an isekai. Main character shows up in fantasy world. He gets a cheat ability, which is a shameless MacGuffin to get him out of any difficult situation. From there, he is reincarnated into the new world and immediately becomes an adventurer. This usually is used as an opportunity to show off their stats, as 9 times out of 10, they have some super high number that arbitrarily makes them better than the seasoned veterans that have survived in that world for years. At this point, he begins to grow the party, and this is usually a harem of big titty anime bitches that want his penis, which is super big, like huge. And from then on, the story devolves into throwing more skills and cheat abilities at the protagonist until he fights God and becomes king of the land. Now, here's how Konosuba does the same structure. Kazuma dies after trying to save a girl he thought was about to be hit with a car. He awakens in the afterlife to find that he never actually needed to save the girl in the first place. She was just fine, and the car was actually a slow-ass tractor. In fact, he only died from freaking out like a massive pussy and having a heart attack. Aqua, the goddess explaining all of this to him, then mocks him relentlessly for his circumstances as she explains that the doctors trying to save Kazuma's life were too busy laughing at the fact he pissed himself to keep him from dying on the operating table. Also, his family made fun of him too. At this point, Kazuma is told to pick a cheat ability and he'll be reincarnated into the new fantasy world. Since he's pissed off at Aqua making fun of him, he refuses to take a gift and demands she accompany him to the new world. The two arrive in the kingdom only to find they have no money, so they can't even register at the Adventurers Guild to accept quests. This leads them to begging for handouts just to get signed up, and Kazuma learns that he is not only not overpowered by any definition, but he's advised to not even be an adventurer. This is just a rough summary of the beginning to the first episode, but it's already made clear that Kazuma is not in for a good time. At every step he is humiliated and quickly grows to absolutely despise the new world he's reincarnated into. He's not even the only guy who reincarnated there. He's not special. Aqua admits that it's just a dumping ground for people since that world's population was getting low. Really, Kazuma resurrecting into this new world is treated with as much dramatic weight as Fry from Futurama getting a job at Planet Express.
Alright! I'm a delivery boy!
Sure, to him it's a big life-changing opportunity, but to pretty much everyone else it's just some loser NEET that came into town. This is the humor that Konosuba shoots for, making the protagonists the butt of the jokes. Every quest they take is not fun to go through, and almost always ends in some kind of disaster. First example is when they fight basic giant frogs, a mob monster that is clearly made to grind if it showed up in an MMO, but they nearly die in the process. They're incompetent, and the story takes every chance it can to piss on their heads. And the other two party members are not much better. First, you have Darkness, the Crusader Knight that acts as the main tank of the party. She's a warrior woman that wants to be useful to a group, but can't do anything beyond soak up damage as she can't hit the broadside of a barn with her sword. She's also a borderline psychopathic masochist, desperate to be hit, humiliated, and nearly killed if it means her panties get moist. She's fun. She's a fun character. It's fun when she's on screen. But let's talk about the only one that actually matters. The one, the only, Megumin. Megumin is pretty good. Yeah, I'm doing the same joke twice. Go fuck yourself. Megumin is the best girl in the series. She's a mage that specializes in explosive magic, meaning she spends all of her experience points on upgrading the same ability over and over again, neglecting the fact that she needs to upgrade her mana to use it properly. She can only really use the spell once, and then she's out of commission for the rest of the day, even collapsing to the ground and rendered paralyzed by the strain. So Megumin, on paper, is pretty useful. I mean, Aqua has some broken-ass abilities as well, but they're always played off as jokes. If the story was serious, you would want Megumin on your team. But what pushes her into being the best girl of the trio? Why do people still praise this character above the others? She's a Chuunibyo. For those unaware, Chuunibyo roughly translates to middle school syndrome. It's somebody that believes they have some special power or skill, sometimes outright supernatural ability, that makes them special and unique among their peers. So for instance, some kid will believe that he is the, second son of the dragon of unyielding fate or some gay shit like that, and pretend to have telekinesis or something else that makes them stand out in a crowd. Go ahead and laugh at this concept, but the West has a similar issue. It all basically boils down to attention seeking and magical thinking, that these impossible and ridiculous ideas are real in your point of view. You see this with kids on Tumblr claiming to be otherkin, and minorities screaming Black Lives Matter. It's all impossible bullshit we all know isn't real. As an anime trope, if done right, it is very endearing. Yes, it is cringy, but considering that it is literally the intention, it feels more relatable than embarrassing. Everyone did stupid shit like this when they were a kid, and the point of the trope is making fun of this. Too long, didn't read, Megumin's awesome, and fuck you.
Fucking slaves, get your ass back here!
All four of the adventurers are dysfunctional and are just kind of stuck with each other, and there are episodes that point this out. They aren't friends at first. In fact, there are multiple points where they downright hate each other and actively work to kneecap somebody if it means they gain something out of it. Sure, as time goes by, they begin to care, but even then, they aren't afraid to ridicule one another. This isn't a friendship forged to save the larger world around them. This is a loose acquaintanceship that formed because literally nobody else would take them. It's a chemistry that completely relies on the humor working. If the show isn't funny, then it's just a bunch of mean-spirited assholes making fun of each other and actively not getting involved with the main plot, i.e. fighting the big bad villain man who we literally never see. But that's where I have to state that yes, Konosuba is funny. In fact, some episodes are downright hilarious, and the bulk of the comedy relies on Kazuma as a character. Instead of being a blank slate for the audience, the guy is actually a really fun protagonist. He's not a hero, or even that great of a person. He's selfish, immature, lazy, and can be a vindictive jackass. His flaws contribute to the very many screw-ups and failures that they experience, and even when he wins, it typically ends up with a situation getting substantially worse for him. A good example is when Kazuma got pissed off at a fellow adventurer that demanded he let Aqua leave his party. This is because the stranger was also a reincarnated Japanese kid who got the typical isekai power fantasy experience that Kazuma wanted, so he knocks the guy out and steals a sword, later pawning it off for drinking money, only to later discover that the sword was one of the few things capable of damaging one of the Demon King's generals, and now they had no MacGuffin weapon to defeat him. Also, the girls that were part of the stranger's party testified against him in court after he sexually harassed them in the street. That's not a joke. There are a lot of moments like this spread throughout Konosuba, where a bad situation is only escalated further by absolute retards making things worse. If you're a fan of seeing how fucked a scenario can get, then the humor of this show is right up your alley. I spoiled more than enough jokes as it is, so you'll just have to take my word that we haven't even scratched the surface. Also, the fan service is great. Not sure how necessary it is to put this point right here, but yeah, the anime titties are good. Good good anime titties, 10 out of 10. But now that the plot and humor stuff is out of the way, how does Konosuba work as an anime? Pretty great, actually. I stated earlier that the animation has a lot of motion, and that most certainly is true. There's fun, exaggerated warping effects that add to the frantic, fast-paced nature of the humor. The second season definitely has a lot more of these moments compared to the first, which can feel a tad stiff in parts. Nothing ever that bad, though. Still, the style is appealing. The colors are bright and full of life, and the character designs are simple yet endearing. It really helps cement that this whole fantasy world is a paradise to somebody, even if we see all the parts that make it miserable and not fun. Now, the action in the show works, but it's never anything super intense or exhilarating. It gets the job done, but the fights in this series are setups for jokes 99% of the time. They still have good animation. Megumin's explosions in particular are a lot of fun, but this isn't an action anime. You're not about to watch Kenshiro drop a motherfucker in Konosuba. It knows it's a comedy and it sticks to what it's good at, but that's all I can say about Konosuba. It's a great anime and is a ton of fun to watch. Right now there are 2 seasons with a few OVAs and a full-length movie called The Legend of Crimson. All of these are good and should be watched. You won't regret it. Until next time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And right before we sign off, I do want to say something. There are no words to express how grateful I am to everybody for this channel reaching over 1,000 subscribers. Like, this isn't some bullshit canned message or obligatory thing I'm saying. I legit never thought this channel would actually make it that far. I'm still trying to get to a point where I can call my videos good, so all the feedback from everybody has just been amazing. My goal is to keep refining this style and really making something that people want to watch. There's a bunch of miserable bullshit happening out in the world today, and the goal of this channel is just to have a bit of fun with it. We all need some escapism right now. Still, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks to everybody that's been watching, and I sincerely wish everyone good health, and hope you're excited for what comes next. See you guys.